No, I got it.
Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai dai dai
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
To
Shalom.
all those who are here in our sanctuary and also to all those who are following our service online, we gather together and celebrate how good it is that we can be together at the top of page 10, Hine ma tov umanai, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. How good, how pleasant it is that we can all be here together.
Tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hinei ma tov, hinei ma tov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hinei ma tov, hinei ma tov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei ma tov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet achim gam yachad.
To bring in Shabbat, we traditionally light at least 2 candles. The idea is 1 candle for remembering Shabbat, 1 for observing Shabbat. These are biblical commandments. For those who are following our services online, and now is a good time to light candles with us. For everyone else, we light candles on everyone's behalf here, and I invite up Liam and his immediate family who are going to help light the candles for us, and you can find the blessing for that on page 2 of our Siddur.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam.
Having welcomed Shabbat with the candles, in a moment we welcome Shabbat metaphorically as Shabbat enters into our sanctuary. Before that, we welcome each other. And sometimes what we do is we invite people who are new or visiting to just stand and share who you are and where you're from. I think this week that would take a while. And so something that we do also instead is we encourage people at this point as an act of welcoming to find somebody you don't know, to introduce yourself, and that will involve moving around, to introduce yourself and to share where you're from, just so that we can welcome each other before welcoming Shabbat. So we take a few moments now just to move around as need be, and to find somebody you don't know, and to wish them Shabbat Shalom. Too much. So we turn to pages 20 and 21. The wonderful thing is, having welcomed each other, you'll be able to talk more easily in our oneg after our service. We turn to pages 20 and 21. We traditionally rise for this prayer. You all sat down way too quickly. So we invite you to rise as you are able. We're going to sing the chorus of Lecha Dodi. We're going to sing verses 1, 2, and 5. And then the tradition is for the final verse, verse 9, that we turn towards the door as Shabbat enters. Lecha Dodi on pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Yishmi'anu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'li tila. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Likrat Shabbat, Lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor haberacha, Merosh mikadem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'mashava techila. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Hitoriri, Ki va'orech kumi ori, Uri, shir taberi, Kevod Adonai, alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nekabela. Shabbat nekavela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala. Gam b'simcha u'v'tzola. Toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi, likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi, likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekavela.
Please be seated. As we turn to page 24, Shalom Aleichem comes from the 17th century. It's like Lecha Dodi that we just sang, was added by the Kabbalists, the mystics, who introduced angelology into our liturgy. There had been concepts of angels in biblical form in many differing ways, but they hadn't really appeared in our liturgy until that point. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharet means peace to you, ministering angels. It's on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharet Malachei Elyon Mi Malach Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oachem leShalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruchuni leShalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Seitchem leShalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
As we turn to page 26, we find Chatzi Kaddish. This is where our prayer service starts to move into praise. And in particular, Baruch Hu, on page 28, that's the formal call to prayer, which starts our formal prayers, what we've had so far, the introductory prayers to get us into the space of prayer. And so to act as a bridge between Chatzi Kaddish is a doxology, a praise of God. You can find it on page 26, and we traditionally rise as we are able for Chatzi Kaddish, which leads us into Baruch Hu on page 28.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah
Amen.
Be'alma dibra chirutei Be'amlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו
Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevarach
לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה.
Yitbarach.
יתברך וישתפך, ויתפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה
Berichu.
לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמה, ואמרו
Amen.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. As we turn to page 30.
We continue on page 30 with our evening prayer, Mariv Aravim. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreom balayla, golelom mipnei choshech, golelom mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila. Adonai tzvaot shemo, El Chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv aravim.
Page 32.
אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, נגע יומם ולילה. באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. אוהב עמו ישראל.
Page 34 and the following pages, we find Shema, an essential prayer of our service that we recite both in the evening and the morning. Some people have the custom of standing for Shema. Some have the custom of saying it seated. If you don't have a custom, choose. And we invite you to therefore either rise or to remain seated for Shema, which starts on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושינתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, ושרתם להיות על ידך, והיו לו תותפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
For those who are standing, please feel free to be seated. As we turn to pages 42 and 43.
The Hebrew can be found in the first two lines of 42. The English is on the first two lines of 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu,
Peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu,
Peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
V'ha'amidenu, shomrenu lechayim, ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha, hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu,
Peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu,
Peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'porei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen. We turn to page 46. Tefillah means prayer. Ha-tefillah, the prayer, is the central prayer of our service. It's an extended prayer that starts on page 48. But we can't just go straight into that prayer. We have to pray that we might be able to pray properly. So we invite you to rise as you are able for tefillah, which in essence starts accurately in halakha, starts on page 48. But before that, we need to pray to get into the mood. And so we have the opening reflection meditation, which has become essentially part of tefillah for nearly 2,000 years, on page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, lema'an shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Page 59. We read, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us, so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulecha na'er lahodot. We spend the rest of our tefillah in quiet prayer, either with the traditional ending of tefillah on page 62, with a reading from page 63, or with the prayer in our own heart. Page 278.
Yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai yai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. We continue with the blessing for the counting of the Omer in the middle of page 278. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, asfirat haomer, asfirat haomer, asfirat haomer, asfirat haomer. Hayom Shmona Asar Yom Shem Shnei Shavuot V'arba Yamim LaOmer. Ay, 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 18 יום, שהם 2 שבועות ו4 ימים לעומר. Today is the 18th day of the Omer, which is 2 weeks and 4 days.
Please be seated. In Tractate Shabbat of Talmud, we find an incident, a story, involving a non-Jew who comes before Shammai and says to him, "Convert me on the condition that you teach me the entire Torah while I stand on 1 foot." Shammai pushed him away or struck him, depending on your translation, with a stick or with a builder's cubit that he was holding. In other words, don't ask such a stupid question. You're going to come to Sunday school every week for years, right, to learn it, right? Sure. So that same non-Jew comes to Hillel. Hillel converts the man and says to him, "That which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That is the entire Torah. The rest is interpretation. Now go and study." Is Hillel correct in this? Certainly the second clause of the central verse of the central chapter of the central book of Torah, which is in this week's Torah portion, is "Va'ahavta l're'echa kamocha ani Adonai." You shall love your neighbor as yourself, I am the Eternal. Torah frames it as a positive commandment, love your neighbor, whereas Hillel frames it as a negative, do not do anything hateful to one another. Are they the same? The rabbis connected Leviticus 19:18, this central verse, with the verses that come before. And they say, "Do not deal basely with members of your people. Do not profit by the blood of your neighbor. I am the Eternal. You shall not hate your kinsfolk in your heart. Reprove your kin, reproach them, so as to incur no guilt on their account. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the members of your people. Love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Eternal." To them, to those rabbis, loving your neighbor was expressed through not profiting or standing idly by the blood of your neighbor, by not hating them in your heart, and especially by rebuking them. If a person is going astray, the biggest act of love is to bring them back to a positive path. Sometimes that needs to happen very gently. You know, have you tried not breaking the commandments? That kind of thing. Eventually, it may have to become less gentle. And the rabbis say if a person moves away from Judaism entirely, there are even some voices in our tradition that say that the rebuke must be forceful, possibly even involving public denunciation. How is that an act of love? Well, the idea behind it is simple. We want the very best for the other person, which in a traditional Jewish perspective means that we want them to be in a right relationship with God, which in turn means that we want them to follow the mitzvot. And so, according to a traditional view, we rebuke because we love. But there's a problem with this, which is the potential for abuse. Gentle rebuke, perhaps best translated as guidance or loving redirection, that's one thing. It's another thing when a person becomes so critical that the other person listening can no longer hear anything but negativity or criticism from that person. And then there's the risk that it goes even further, that criticism turns into abuse, which then becomes justified under the guise of love. Or conversely, someone receiving gentle rebuke or loving guidance could turn around to the person rebuking them and say that not trying to change them is an act of love. And so trying to change them is not an act of love, but an act of abuse. So the whole idea of connecting rebuke with love is then laden with potential difficulties. Which is why concentrating merely on the verse itself, I think, is far more helpful nowadays. So is love your neighbor as yourself, is that the same as whatever is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor? The key to answering this is in the Hebrew grammar. V'ahavta l'reacha. Le is a directional pronoun, meaning to. So, a better translation of this Torah verse is love to your neighbor, or best, show love to your neighbor as you would have it shown to you. Show love to your neighbor seems profoundly different to don't do anything hateful to your neighbor. Showing love means acting positively, which is different to not doing anything hateful. Because doing nothing is not doing anything hateful, but it's also not showing love. So the two aren't the same. So with that in mind, how could Hillel, one of the greatest sages of Judaism, how could he take the central verse of the central chapter of the central book of Torah, the very center of Torah, and misquote it? To me, the answer is because of the nuance of the verse and because of the specific person he was talking to. Where we normally translate l'reacha, to your neighbor, it actually specifically means to your fellow Jew, because those were the neighbors at the time. The person who asked the question of Hillel wasn't Jewish, at least at the point of asking the question, but wanted to convert. So he didn't really know any fellow Jews. And specifically, he didn't know how to show love to them in a Jewish way in terms of ensuring their Jewish well-being. So I think that Hillel changes the maxim to something that somebody who isn't yet Jewish could understand as he entered the Jewish community. Remember what he says, that which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That is the entire Torah, and the rest is interpretation. Now go and study. The now go and study part is essential. He wants this person to move from a place of that which is hateful to you, do not do to another, to love your fellow Jew as yourself. But that's going to take time because that person needs to learn how Judaism expresses love. Even with all that resolved, though, there's still one issue with this verse. Only a fellow Jew? What about the non-Jew? There's quite a lot more of them than there are Jews. Are we really only required to show love to a fellow Jew? The answer is no, of course not. In fact, there are over 36 occasions where Torah commands us to show love to the non-Jew who lives nearby. Why so many? You could say that it's because it's trying to combat an inherent racism, a natural suspicion that the Hebrews could have had of strangers in the camp due to what happened when they lived in Egypt, and indeed when other nations like the Amalekites or the Moabites tried to destroy them. Or you could look at it another way. The commandments to love the non-Jew are scattered throughout Torah, but the commandment to love the fellow Jew is placed at the very center of Torah specifically because it's more difficult. The famous phrase, one room, two Jews, three opinions, is real. And while the theory is that we dialogue with love, well, let's just say that the people we know and love also tend to be the people who annoy us the most. It's not that we're only commanded to love the fellow Jew, quite clearly not. But that showing love to the Jew who may annoy us should be just as important as showing love to the non-Jew whom we already know to welcome and love. Perhaps this is the central verse of Torah because it is the most difficult mitzvah. And perhaps that's why Hillel changes it for the non-Jew who wants to become a Jew. And support for this view comes from the fact that the first half of this verse talks about not taking revenge or bearing a grudge against your neighbor, and only then does it command love of that same person. So I think taking Hillel's maxim and the central verse of our Torah in order is actually really helpful for all of us as we reflect on all our relationships with all people. Firstly, we do not do to anyone else that which we would consider to be hateful to us. And then, and only then, once we have achieved that, then we show love to them as we would have them show love to us. Start with those for whom this kind of reciprocation of respect and love is easy, and then eventually work towards those for whom it is more challenging. And maybe that is the way for us to bring about the Messianic age, by taking on the hardest mitzvah of all, and by getting to a point of loving all of our fellow human beings, including the ones who annoy us as ourselves. So may we all find the strength and love to be able to do this. And let us say, Amen. We turn to page 253, page 253 in our Siddur, as we think of those in our community and outside our community in need of healing, comfort, and support at this time. Pray in particular at this time for comfort, for healing, and for support for Neil Rader, as well as for Gail Kaufman-Craven, Kathleen Nadler, Leah Bat Gershon V'Udia, Cassandra Wenzel, Nora Gluck, Carl Stalnaker, Ellen Lowenberg, Steve and Sherry Harland, Jan Simonoff, Jane Siegel, Frank Remmert, Barbara Meyer, Carol Rudman, Jane Hochberg, Carlos Villarreal, and Gary Polkowitz, as well as for Lila Eckel, Sheila Stauder, Scott Lewis, Sophie Hochberg-Farah, Ingrid Gustafsson, Jerry Steinberg, Faggy Marks, James Hetherington, Sandra Levine, Martha Ramirez, Cindy Pabst, Ann Lassa, Kathy Romero, Maria Romero, Marcia Landry, Carmen Rodriguez, Jerry Nuri-Home, Aaron Eckel, and Ariana Chavez. And if anyone here also knows of anyone in need of comfort, healing, and support at this time, please feel free to share their name out loud. Ata Adonai, Rofei HaChalim. Blessed are you, God, who brings healing to the sick.
Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu l'those in need of healing with refuah shelema. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We wish Refuah Shlema, complete and total healing to all those whom we have named and to all those whom we hold in our hearts. Before we continue with our liturgy, I'd like to invite up Meredith, our temple president, who's going to come and share some announcements for this evening.
Tomorrow's Torah study is on Zoom only this weekend. Link is on the front page of the temple website, www.sftbs.org. The topic is Kedoshim, Leviticus 19. Love your neighbor as yourself. Who is our neighbor, and how do we show love to them appropriately? Shabbat services will be at our regular time of 10:30 in the morning with the bar mitzvah ceremony of Liam Michaels Northfield. On Tuesday, May 14th, join us at 7 p.m. for Israeli Independence Day, impressions from recent visitors to Israel. On Friday, May 17th, we'll have a family service beginning at 5:30 with the youth choir. On Saturday, May 18th, the second session of Reimagining Judaism and the Environment with Rabbi Neal. Bring your brown bag lunch. Class will start right after Shabbat services at 12:15. TBS welcomes donations to help provide bag lunches to feed 25 hungry kids for 7 weeks during summer break at the Lone Star Trailer Park. Please drop off the following non-perishable items in the temple's red bucket. For the list, please see the e-digest or our website. Tuesday night, June 11th, Tikkun Leil Shavuot. To see all the exciting things that night, go to the website or check the next e-digest. If you're able to help at our booth on Pride on the Plaza on Saturday, June 29th, please contact us as soon as possible at tikkunolam@sftbs.org. Shabbat Shalom.
We start our concluding prayers by turning to page 283, 284, and 287. We invite you to rise as you are able as we open the ark for Our Lady.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים
may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hands but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas. Light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Please be seated, if just for a moment. As we turn to page 294, and as we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, as well as remember those who died at this season in years past, and also those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. And I will share the names of those being remembered by our community. If I mention the name of a loved one, I invite you to rise and to remain standing as you are able. And after I've shared the names of those being remembered by our community, if you are also remembering someone at this time, we will then also invite you to rise and to share their name. As we remember during her Shloshim, Faith Emily Hospital. And then on their yard sites we remember Manuela Avila, John Baxter, Esther Bader, Sarah Brody, Grace Kane, Jean Childs, Doreen Decray, Ruth Dicker, Jan Fawcett, Frida Fisher, Ethel Fulhamwider, Anthony Graham, Aaron Grunfeld, Irene Grunfeld, Harris Godelski, Benjamin Goodwin, Robert Hochberg, Bertalan Jakobowitz, Piri Jakobowitz, Judy Callas, Martin Kessler, Irma Moses Kessler, Agnes Kestenbaum, Jenny Moskowitz, Herman Moskowitz, Vera Moskowitz, Bernard Nowitz, Beatrice Pascal, Louise Polkowitz, Jason Rothstein, and Sally Walsh. If anyone else here is remembering anyone at this time, please feel free to rise and to share their name. Invite the rest of the community to rise in support of our mourners, who on page 294 lead us by saying, Yitgadal, Yitgadal. Amen. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mavarach La'alam Ulamei Almaya. Berichu. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Ose shalom bimroma, uyase shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru.
Zichanam Livracha. Their memories will always be for a blessing. We round off our service, turning back to page 60. Shalom Rav. Grant abundant peace to us and to the whole world. On page 60.
Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Ki ata hu melech adon lecho hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lecho hashalom. Lecho hashalom. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 V'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love.
Please rise as you are able for our concluding blessing.
Yevarcheinu Adonai ve'yishmereinu.
May God bless us and keep us.
Yaher Adonai panav elinu v'chuneinu.
May God's face shine upon us and be gracious to us.
Yisa Adonai panav elinu v'yasem lanu shalom.
May God lift up the divine presence toward us and always grant us peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So, I know what you're going to do. So we turn to pages 4 and 5 for our Kiddush, which is the sanctification of the day over wine or grape juice. Then we're going to say Motzi. Motzi is the blessing over the bread, which starts the evening meal for those who haven't eaten already. And for those who are new to our community, we have an oneg, food, essentially a celebration of Shabbat in the social hall afterwards. You basically go around the corner, turn right, and just follow all the Jews who'll be running to the food. So we encourage, it's true, so we encourage you to join us, and particularly to sit with people who you introduced yourselves to before, to get to know each other. And for our younger people here, don't forget to have your cards ka-chunked. Our Kiddush is on pages 4 and 5.
ויהי ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם. ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חברי,
Chaim.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו. בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
B'tevon Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Can I get all the stuffies picked up and put back on the cart in the corner? Thank you.
And so all of Liam's class and all the younger people who are going to participate in the circle, come and join us before the awning.
Don't
forget to put some-
It actually wound up over there. Go around the other side. Very
There is R. It's filed under R. Did you just rip your card?
No, it was ripped like
Wow.
a few days ago.
Okay, lots of people wait. It's Friday. A lot of people are waiting.
Is this the right date?
It is the right
The rabbi already said it.
Okay, what's your chance to come and join us? Well, up a bit. Go the wrong way.
Okay, the other thing.